Today I am so happy to be joined in person by Dylan Tipton, who is currently a Louisville student, who I've known for, how long? Over 5 years?
Yeah, we've known each other for 5 years, and we're finally meeting now.
And we're doing a live podcast together after dinner.
Yep, that's right. Raising Canes.
And I just want to say real quick, shout out to AJ's for sponsoring them. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple or some other device, you won't be able to see, but I'm wearing an AJ shirt. They are just right down the street from us off Purdue's campus, which we have a Louisville University student with us tonight at Purdue University. So if you're up at Purdue, make sure you try AJ's.
AJ's.
So, by the way, they got amazing food like corn dogs. Okay, that's original. Mac and cheese bites with a little bit of spice. That's one of my favorites. So just a really good place. So hit up AJ's if you're at Purdue ever. Or if you just want to drive 5 hours to eat AJ's. Help yourself. So love AJ's. They got a cool logo too. Make sure you follow them on social media. So Dylan, me and you have known each other for over 5 years. We met in person for the first time literally like less than 3 hours ago. Here we are now shooting a podcast together. First off, I have a lot of respect for the work that you've been able to do.
Thank you.
Over the years in politics, as well as your work at Louisville. So how did you kind of get started with politics?
Well, first and foremost, Jacob, thank you for having me on your show. It's a true privilege to be on your show. I first got involved in politics when I was in middle school. I was on the academic team and really became fascinated by our history, American history. And I would get up every morning before school. I would watch CBS Good Morning with Gail King and Tony DeCopo, and I was just fascinated by the idea of politics. And so I eventually started meeting political figures. I met my senators for the first time in 2018 back in Kentucky, Senator Rand Paul and Senator Mitch McConnell. And from there, I started working on political campaigns, getting involved in the local party, and ever since then, I've just taken off. So,
yeah, just crazy and great to see your progress. Obviously, you've interned in D.C. for Senator Mitch McConnell. What was that experience kind of like?
Yeah, so I interned in D.C. in 2023 with Senator McConnell. I was considered a press intern. I worked directly with the press secretary for Senator McConnell. And each day, my role consisted of doing constituent tours of the Capitol, answering phone calls for the office, preparing clips of the news articles that the senator was mentioned in, both at home in Kentucky and nationally, given he was the leader at the time. And we would print them out for him each day and deliver them directly to his home. So it was a great privilege of mine to intern for a historic leader. And I'll remember it forever. I encourage anyone who's interested in politics to intern at some point, either at home in their state capital or in Washington. It's a great experience.
And I can concur, having interned at the Indiana State House for 2 summers. Great place. And I know you've also done some great work at the Kentucky State House, which I have not visited yet, but it's on the bucket list. Shout out to Anthony Mixer, who took me around the Washington State Capitol, if you're watching this. But let's kind of get into some big issues right now. Where do you see the Trump presidency going?
Well, it's still awfully early. We're only nearly 2 months in, and he's done a lot. President Trump's done a lot in the first few weeks. I think it's really too early to tell how well he's going to do throughout the remainder of his presidency. Of course, right now we're still in the middle of the Ukraine-Russian war. We also have tariffs that have been imposed on other countries, and the stock market isn't looking too good this week. But Trump's looking at it from a long-term perspective. He's looking at businesses investing in America. He wants to see them stay here. So I think in the long run, President Trump will be looked great upon on what he's done for our country. I really hope he is successful in all his endeavors, because his success is the country's success, which results in all of American success. So definitely need to pray for the president and hope for the best.
And obviously, this is a question that, well, if I were interviewing somebody more left-leaning, I would say, who's your least favorite cabinet member of Trump? But I think you like Trump, So maybe who's a cabinet member that you like? And as the interviewer, I never give my feedback, so you're not going to hear my response. I've interviewed cabinet members of Bush's administration, some people from Trump's. I've had Eric Trump on, as you know. I've also interviewed some of Obama's cabinet members. So everyone's welcome on the Jacob Buer Show if you're watching this far in. But who do you kind of like in the Trump administration so far? If you can only pick one person.
Yeah, I think Trump's assembled a great team. I like.
You do?
I like most of them. Some were controversial, but
you only get to pick one. Who's your favorite?
My favorite would probably be, since it's not normal, since it's from a deferring party, probably Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I liked his nomination. I like how he's from a different perspective. He doesn't agree with the president on everything, and I think that's the type of people you need to surround yourself with when you're in that place of power. So probably Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Wow. Yeah. He has responded to my email before, so maybe we'll get him on it.
Get him on.
And who's maybe one of your favorite commentators right now?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of...
We're on the topic of loving people, I guess.
I like Patrick Bet-David. He's out of...
Valuetainment.
Valuetainment out of West Palm Beach, Florida. And he's a former veteran, a U.S. veteran, and a successful businessman and entrepreneur. And now he hosts the PBD podcast, which he's had all sorts of figures, including President Trump on, and other figures who are from other parties on.
He just had Andrew Tate on?
Just had Andrew Tate on. So he has some interesting people on his podcast. I encourage you to check it out. But I listen to him most.
Yeah. I've also listened to Patrick Bet-David. I actually, if you looked at my top podcast, there's people on the left and the right that I listen to. I think that's important to have an informative opinion. And then kind of, obviously, you're in Kentucky. It's in the news a lot more. Obviously, you got Mitch McConnell. You got Rand Paul, the Paul family. I just had the dad, Dr. Ron Paul, on, who was obviously more Texas, not Kentucky. Yep. And then you got Thomas Massey, who's in the news a lot right now. And I know you've met and know all these people. But to you, where do you see the future of Kentucky going in a way? Because they do have a Democratic governor right now. And some people might not realize that. They also do not elect their governor during a midterm or a presidential election year. There's only 5 states that do not: New Jersey, Mississippi, Louisiana, Kentucky, and what's the other one? Louisiana. Yeah, so I think I said 4. Am I missing any others? Virginia. And New Jersey. Yeah. I think I might have said some names twice there, but Kentucky's one of those states like that. So where do you kind of see the future of Kentucky going?
Yeah, it's a very great question. Of course, given that Senator McConnell just announced that he's not rerunning in 2026, we're going to see a very influential Kentucky political figure not around anymore. He's going to be stepping down and out of the public sphere. So we are going to see new people emerge in Kentucky politics. There's going to be people announcing fairly soon to run for Senator McConnell's seat next year.
One already has.
So currently, Daniel Cameron, former Attorney General, has announced shortly after Senator McConnell announced he's not rerunning, Daniel Cameron announced. Daniel ran against Andy Beshear in 2023 for governor and fell short. So now he's going to try to launch a campaign to be the next U.S. Senator from Kentucky. And there's several who have been who have also been considered to announce their campaign. Nate Morris, he's a wealthy businessman from Lexington, very successful. He hasn't run for public office before, so it's going to be interesting to see how he does. And then U.S. Congressman Andy Barr, outside of Kentucky's 6th Congressional District in Lexington, is also considering a Senate bid. They have not announced yet. I do expect them both to announce, and it's going to be a pretty contested, heated primary. It's already starting to look that way. I know Mr. Morris went on Donald Trump Jr.'s podcast recently, He's
Triggered.
Yes.
That's the name of Donald Trump Jr. show, by the way.
Yes, he went on there recently, and he is aligning himself strongly with President Trump and Trump's agenda, and trying to pivot the others to be a part of Senator McConnell's team. So it looks like it's gonna get feisty. We're still early in the campaign. We're about 13 months away from the primary, so we got some time.
And that's something that's so interesting is before you used to do maybe like fall before, 7 months before the primary. Now you're doing it a year and a half in advance.
Yes.
You look at Ohio, Vivek Ramaswamy running there for governor. You look at other races for governor in Michigan or U.S. Senate. You're now doing it a year and a half. Like literally, you don't even wait until the fall before the spring primary or the summer primary. You're doing it like before Trump even took office. So just really crazy to see how that's changed in politics because of how big money plays a factor now.
Well, that's the number one mistake you can't make in politics and when you're running for office. You can never start too early. So if you're running for office, you need to get ahead of the game and start as early as you can. And I think Daniel Cameron has done a fantastic job at doing that. So,
for sure. And what's your favorite political issue?
Wow, favorite political issue. Any, like state or federal?
Yeah, it can be really any. So, like, I guess what issue were you most passionate about that made you interested in politics?
Sure. Well, I'll give you one now. I go to the University of Louisville in Louisville, Kentucky, and our city has a dire homelessness problem. And having family members who have formerly been homeless, it's an issue that touches my heart, and I deeply care about seeing these people out on our streets every day. Literally every day I live in downtown Louisville, and I see it. It's an issue that we have not fixed. It's an issue that we've kind of pushed on along down the road, and we don't have a good answer for it. And I hope we can find a good answer. We definitely need more shelters. We need to get these people off the streets, because I think a lot of these people, if they had an option to have a shelter and have services provided for them, they would put themselves on a path to success. So that's an issue that I'm most focused at on the local level.
And I'm going to kind of flip this grid, and I know you said it's a very personal issue. Some people have the claim that, the problem is they get free food or they have shelter, therefore they don't want to work. What would you say to people who have that opinion?
Well, I would say you need to find somebody who has been through this experience, and you need to talk to them about how it's impacted their family. Because it's easy to say, if we give it all to them, they're never going to do anything, and that might be true for some of the people. But I would say the vast majority, if you were to give them this opportunity, they would seize on it. And if you put them in a good religious church atmosphere and build a community around them, that could really change the trajectory of their life. And I'm all for people who are able-bodied to be able to find a job and work and contribute to a society in order to obtain these benefits. But then again, you have to consider people who are disabled or mentally impaired. You have to consider them too.
Fair point. And, kind of looking ahead, I have a few last questions. Looking ahead, who are you most excited about right now in 2028? It could be a Democrat.
Yeah.
I'm joking. I know that for you it's probably not a Democrat.
2028 is going to be a pivotal year.
Do you think it's only going to be J.D. Vance who runs?
I think there will be more in the primary, in the Republican primary.
Who do you suspect will run?
I definitely suspect J.D. Vance will run. And I think that's all but guaranteed. I think that's all I'm going to say right now, because I think J.D. Vance is going to get the nomination in 2028 if he were to decide to run. I think you could see some more stragglers following behind him, but he's going to carry it as long as he continues being a great vice president as he's been so far. He's done well in the debates he's done with vice president candidate Tim Walz. On the Democratic side, I definitely see Andy Beshear, current governor of Kentucky, running for the either vice presidential slot or the presidential slot in 2028. I think he will not run for Senate, and he wants to position himself as a two-time Trump plus 30 governor in Kentucky State, and he wants to run on that successful 8 years as governor rather than Senate. So,
which is interesting because with him, he would end his term in December of 2027.
Yes.
And the Iowa caucus, again, Democrats do it differently, but say the Iowa caucus or the New Hampshire. Obviously, the Democrats talk about racism and how they got to move their states around. That's not my opinion. That is the fact. They've talked about moving it around for ages. The Republicans, I think, will still keep the Iowa caucus first in 2028. But again, I'm just telling you what the Democrats are going to likely do. But regardless, the first primary, whatever state they'll have, that's going to be in February, likely, or late January. That means that Beshear will have, and obviously he'd have to launch his campaign over the summer as a sitting governor still, which... Again, he'd be a sitting governor when he announces. Mm-hmm. And then he would have nothing to do for 30 or 40 days before he would have that first race and whatever state it would be. I think it would still be the Iowa caucus for the Dems or New Hampshire primary, but even if it was a state like South Dakota, which it's not going to be, he would have the free time more than a sitting U.S. senator to be there and win that first state.
Yes,
contest.
I agree 100%.
I don't think he'd win a nomination, but that could get him to be a VP.
Yeah, it's going to be a crowded Democratic primary, I think. You have a lot of candidates on the Democratic side.
They're craving for a populist, and I don't think that Beshear can handle a populist role, but I think he could be a VP role.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I think you'll see Gavin Newsom launch a campaign for sure on the Democratic side. You'll probably see Josh Shapiro launch a campaign. I don't think he'll go for the vice presidential slot personally. I think he'll go for the presidential slot.
Well, what if he dropped out and then begged to be a VP for somebody?
He could do that. I think that was quite evident when Joe Biden ran in 2020, and he ultimately chose Kamala Harris to be his vice president. She campaigned against him, and that's exactly what happened. I think that could happen. That could happen to Beshear, yeah.
And then obviously, Thomas Massey is somebody from your state. Mm-hmm. What's your experience been with him?
Yes, Thomas Massey. I love the congressman. He's actually my personal congressman where I grew up and where I was raised. And he's a very genuine guy. He'll tell you like it is. He's very principled. I hate that the president's going after him this week. I just saw Congressman Massey this past Saturday at Shelby County Lincoln Day dinner, an annual tradition they hold, and he's very very kind. He just lost his wife unfortunately last year, shortly at the end of last year, and I think that's played a role into who he is today. He's definitely a changed man after the loss.
Very smart guy. Went to MIT. He went to MIT. Anybody who's like he's a weird libertarian figure, the guy went to MIT, which in my opinion is better than Harvard.
Yes. Well, what I appreciate most about Congressman Massey is that he's so focused on the issue of the national debt. And this is an issue that's going to impact our generation and our kids and our grandkids that the current Congress is fixing to pass this week. And like Congressman Massey said, if they pass this bill, it's gonna add a catastrophic amount of debt on top of already, I think, $36 trillion in debt we are. So eventually, this is going to come due, and it's not going to be a good situation down the road. So I'm all for the Doge team and everyone that's trying to tackle our debt issue and reduce our spending. We definitely need a fix, and we don't need to keep spending money we don't have.
Well said. So I always like to close with fireball questions, not fireball shots. You have a Cane's drink in front of you, and I got an Ice Mountain water, so there's no fireball or anything like that. I don't even know what fireball is. No, I'm kidding. But obviously, 3 quick fireball questions. The first is, if you could travel to any state that you haven't been to yet, which state would it be?
I think Nevada. I would want to go check out Las Vegas.
Do you want to gamble?
I do want to. How'd you know? Yeah, I want to visit Las Vegas. I've gotten into poker recently, and I wanna perfect my poker skills enough to go play in Las Vegas one day.
Now I gotta get into this one, which it could be controversial years from now, so be careful. But country you'd want to visit?
Oh man.
See, I'm gonna just say this, and I typically don't talk a lot in my interviews, but since this is in person and I know you better than most of the guests who do come on my show, and you're around my age, it's tough for me to want to sometimes travel to other countries when like we have it all in America. And that's one thing I'll say. You got Florida 2.5 hours away. You got cattle in Oklahoma, 2 hours away on a plane. 3 hours away, you got mountains and an ocean in California on a plane. So again, anybody who's like, America, why don't you guys travel as much? We have it all here. I'm sorry. That is a fact. My gosh. But sorry to interrupt. If you do want to visit a country one day, which one would it be?
Yeah, I think I'd like to visit Japan first and foremost. I have a good friend who just visited, and just seeing the pictures there of what he's seen, Mount Fuji. It's just a beautiful place. You go on a train there. I forget what he called it. I think it's like a bolt train or something. It's a train that goes very fast. I think just to see that culture, what it's like over there, would be really cool.
For sure. And then, least favorite president of all time.
Oh, man, least favorite.
I was going to ask favorite, but I feel like that's not fun because everyone's like Abe Lincoln, George Washington.
Yeah.
But you're educated, so you'd have a better example on even going back into history who maybe somebody is that you don't appreciate. I know that's a weird way to end the interview.
I'll give you the 9th president, William Henry Harrison. He
was from Indiana, and he was in office for 41 days.
9th president. 41 days, died of pneumonia, I believe. I think he gave the longest inaugural address. Fact check me on that. But yeah, I mean, there wasn't much there, at least in his presidency. So probably him.
Wow. Well, Dylan,
sorry to hate on the Indiana presidents.
It's fine. Kentucky's never had a president, or have they?
Lincoln.
Gosh. Okay.
We claim Lincoln. In Kentucky, we claim Lincoln, even though he moved to Illinois shortly after his birth.
But the boyhood home was Indiana? They say
something like that. He was born
Every
in
state
Kentucky,
claims him. Kentucky claims him. Indiana claims him. Illinois claims him.
Yeah. Well, we're fixing to have our next president, J.D. Vance, in 2028, who's from Breathitt County, Kentucky. So maybe we'll have a second one.
But he grew up in Ohio. I say that as an Ohio native. Well, Dylan, It was a pleasure to interview you on the show, and you're welcome, Don, and you are welcome to come back anytime.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob. Thank you for having me.